everyone. Welcome to Trailblazers Rising. Today, we have a very exciting guest on the show whom I have been following on TikTok for a hot minute now because she is really a trailblazer when it comes to the physical manifestations of neurodivergence, possibly the causes. Who knows? Science is a funny thing that is ever evolving. Kimberly, say hello and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly. I am both self-taught and autistic, and I have created a whole chart around neurodivergence, mental health, and autoimmune.
That is so incredible. So all of her links are going to be in the show notes so that you guys can go check it out. But what first turned me on to you and made me go, hold up, wait a minute, is you have this chart that is so all-encompassing and detail-oriented and makes so much fucking sense about these origins of neurodivergence, right? So my area of expertise is in mindset and energy for neurodivergent women entrepreneurs, right? So it has everything to do with comorbidity, physical manifestations of ADHD and autism, and accommodations so that we can live our best, most successful lives as driven women entrepreneurs, right? So I have extensive research background in mast cell activation syndrome, POTS, endometriosis, Ehlers-Danlos, big one, right? Dyslexia, calcula, all of those, right? And all of the executive functions as they pertain to challenging ourselves as neurodivergent humans, right? So I forget what I'm saying mid-sentence all the time. I forget words in word recall because my working memory and my dyslexia and my ADHD, we're lucky if I can finish any of the sentences, but I always have my handy dandy notebook around me so that I can make sure I remember the important things, right? So like you said when we were talking earlier, before we started, really understanding the why behind why these things happen is so important to being able to accommodate that need. So tell me again, so that everybody can hear, what really got you started in this really powerful research?
It started with me realizing that I had ADHD, and then my daughter being diagnosed with autism and her being nonverbal and being completely just the lack of information around why she was unable to speak with her frustration levels being so high and me trying to help her lower those. So I dug into the research to figure out why these comorbidities exist because they're just being completely stepped compared to the autism diagnosis in general. And we really need more help with the comorbidities because with 80-90% of us having the same ones at some point, it's got to be part of the diagnosis so we can all get some symptom relief.
Absolutely, because here's the thing, and I say this to anybody who will listen until I'm blue in the face. As a woman who was told that it's anxiety and depression and that I would be able to take a pill and do some therapy and it would go away and I would not have these problems, the mindset really had to shift into it's ADHD and autism, and this is your neurotype. This is how you perceive the world and how you interact in the world, and it requires accommodations for the rest of your fucking life. That really started making all the changes. So when I was looking at your resources and seeing, glutathione and all this other stuff on there, I was like, this bitch knows what she's talking about. Where have you found the most helpful, all-encompassing research? Because I'm sure you know, as well as anybody else in this field, most of the research is done on fucking children. So us women entrepreneurs out here who are just trying to figure out, wait, how does ADHD affect me? How does the Ehlers-Danlos affect me? How does this affect me? There's so much out there that only points to, I hate to say it, little white boys.
Yeah. I completely gave up on the research that was linked to autism for the longest time, and I went straight for the biochemical pathways. I looked at what could be causing these symptoms, not the diagnosis, strictly the symptoms, and I came across BH4 because it was very bottom up. First, it was the hypotonia. What causes that? Oxidative stress. What causes that? And on and on and up. And then I found BH4, and I was like, that causes everything at the same time. And my jaw dropped, and I was like, oh, here we go. And the whole chart was created.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in the holistic naturopathic medicine world, where I am not a naturopathic doctor, but I do take a holistic approach to healing the body and supporting the body and the mind and the emotions and the spirit, right? There's one creator, I wish I could remember his name. He was interviewed on a podcast about, how do you avoid the lawsuits from I'm not on TikTok. I'm allowed to say it out loud. Okay. Anyways, this is going to go on YouTube. So who knows what they're going to ban. But when it comes to that, he said, well, you can't say the name of the diseases. You can only say the name of the organs or the areas or anything like that because they, while they don't want you to say cure diabetes, you can say blood sugar problem, right? So has that been your experience to not anger the Western medical world of, these medical doctors that go to school for 10 years and then do this and do that, and they know all and they're end all be all, and they're going to give you a pill for a symptom and they're not going to treat the root cause. What has been your way around that? Because I'm sure you're hitting wall after wall after wall.
Yeah, actually, I kind of, again, bottom up thinking, my thought process through that was trying to avoid the stigma around autism socially. I really wanted to focus on those biochemical pathways and just symptom relief. Pick your symptom relief. Okay, I have this symptom, causes that. What does that look like? And how do I help that? For example, lack of blood flow, right? That comes with pot. What causes that? And the nitric oxide pathway. And how do I stop that gap? Has really helped me avoid both the stigma and the what's the word? Backlash.
The backlash.
Scientific community.
So with backlash, I have been following you for a while, and I know that there was one male, it's always a male, doctor who was stealing your shit and claiming it to be their own. What happened with all that?
I talked to his son and I got a little spooked. I was like, I don't want any type of lawsuit at all. I took it all down because I found out that he was into certain activities that I just didn't want to promote I had followers when watching his content. I didn't want that at all. So I was like, I am just never speaking his name again. His name is out of after that.
It feels like that's going to be something you encounter a lot with the world because if we think about it, my main question that I always ask myself is who benefits from this when it comes to anything, right? There's a woman who is on all of the podcasts, all the big podcasts right now. She's on Mel Robbins. She's on Diary of a CEO. I forget her name off the top of my head, but I have been following her very diligently. Again, working memory. And she's an expert in fasting, especially for women. And I'm like, okay. And she really knows her stuff. And she's talking about all that. And she's going on all the podcasts and we're learning all this stuff. And her main thing that she says is the reason that it has such a stigma is because nobody makes money when your professional is telling you stop eating. Nobody makes money when you tell somebody to eat less or to do this or to do that. If you're not hawking something in particular, right? If you're telling somebody the solution is free and easy, a lot of people stand to make less money because they're currently making money on you thinking that it costs money and you have to buy a thing. So when it comes to how do you handle these professionals with all their experience coming in and saying, oh, you can't do that. Oh, you can't do this when clearly you can. And clearly you did.
I usually poke fun at them or I ignore it. I'll either attack it head on and make it very obvious what they're doing, kind of the absurdity out there. Or I just ignore it because a lot of what I'm doing, they're all supplements. Tryptophan's a supplement, tyrozine's a supplement. Nitric oxide test strips are $10 on Amazon. And then you take supplements to increase. None of them require big pharma. So
yeah, it's so incredible. When we think about how you were able to put all this together with the research that's out there, right? Because I don't know about you, but like even when I do make it really big, I don't want to spend my time on performing the research. That's never been the part of the science that I like. I like taking all the findings and then saying, okay, well, here's how I'm affected and here's what the findings say. So how can I make something that's going to fix me or address me or, make it so that I can live a better, happier, healthier life? Because as it is right now, as a chronically ill neurodivergent woman, if I were still living by these typical rules out here, I wouldn't be successful. I would be burned out. I would stay in the cycle of burnout. So you as a teacher who's been doing all of this, how do you battle the burn?
The chart has helped me battle the burnout a lot because I discovered we have the brain chemicals that we have are high for too long. It's not healthy for you, and that deplete this hormone So figuring out how to work around that and how to heal my system from those fight or flight hormones being extended for such a long period of time has really helped me. And knowing even just to keep those low now, activate the
Yeah.
parasympathetic so that you can rest and recover properly. It's all been so helpful.
So helpful. My whole life, I'm 37. My whole life, when my mom was alive, she died in 2020, was a joke about how I don't poop. How I am a chronically constipated. Mel's never going to poop. Like if I was traveling, my mom would text or call me and say, make sure you're taking your stool softeners because you're really not going to poop when you're traveling. And now with all the research that I've done in these past couple of years with my Ehlers-Danlos, my endometriosis, and my chronic stress, fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, I now understand that my digestive system has essentially stopped working because it was never given the support that it needed. And the more stress that you have, the more digestive issues you're going to have. And especially understanding, because I have a lot of friends that are like, "Oh no, I have diarrhea all the time. I'm not constipated, not at all. I get nervous and I go poop." I have done so much research into neurodivergence and the digestive system and how that works for us, especially with all these comorbidities, that I am now telling all of my clients, like, hey, I need you to check out this creator and this creator and this creator who are, like licensed in nutrition and constipation, especially, and all this other sort of stuff, because we are all misguided about what a healthy bowel movement is. We're all misguided on what a healthy diet is. We're all misguided on the right amount of sleep and rest and that sort of stuff. And the rules and the directions that are on all the packages are not pertaining to us. They pertain to that neurotypical 24-hour man who runs on that circadian rhythm, and we're in-free beings. We're a 28-day cycle of hormones and energy and mindset and effort and what we're able to give the world. So what has been one of your most surprising findings of like, holy shit, this whole time everybody was saying I needed to do X, Y, Z, but it's actually C?
Actually, ironically, the circadian rhythm is hooked up to serotonin. Serotonin controls the circadian rhythm. Once I realized that, it blew my mind. That's why the low serotonin that is seen in neurodivergence is the cause, because serotonin also creates melatonin, which helps you. So just finding the extent that this is all connected and that no one has connected the dots was mind-blowing, because the research has all been there. I have done no new groundbreaking research. I have just connected the dots between everything that already exists.
Does it make you think that they have connected the dots? They just know that they're not going to make as much money if they tell us about it?
I used to think that until I started talking to people with PhDs. Then I realized very intelligent. I was such a big conspiracy theorist about all of it. And then I started talking to them, and even just going to my child's doctor, pediatrician, she was recommending vitamins. And I was talking about, no, I need these because they have the active form of vitamins. And your body needs to break those down into the active forms, not just break them down to pee them out. Like
Yeah.
your body needs to use those. And she was like, what? And when I talked to the textbooks they use in college to teach doctors are 30 years old in the research. They have no clue any of the updated stuff.
Yeah. They really don't. And there's more continuing education that a hairdresser has to do than a fucking doctor.
It's me how we're all pretty movement and figuring out the causes we can help each other. I love it, honestly, how there's this camaraderie between all of us and how do we help each other, because they're not.
That really is the mindset of the neurodivergents that are really dedicated to a good life and a good quality of life and experiencing joy and safety and fun and not just feeling like shit. Like, I didn't realize how much pain I was always in until I started not being in so much physical pain.
And those of us that have to burn the capacity to do research and share it are doing.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. That's so serotonin. And you got to take 5-HTTP to get your serotonin up, right? That and what?
Where the hiccup is. Depending on where the hiccup is, the active form of vitamin B6 is what used in that recipe to create the 5-H. And then the active form of folate is what's used and the tryptophan conversion. Really depends on which one you need. So it's crazy seeing the whole entire pathway and how it moves together.
What has been your biggest roadblock?
Probably the fact that I live in the middle of nowhere and I have no networking connections, and I'm bad at networking, being autistic. I have no concept of how to move my way up to get this information in front of more people who need it.
I mean, you have the drive and the calling, so that's the good news. The drive and the calling is something that cannot be trained or taught or instilled. And really just getting yourself to that place of like, this is what it is. This is the information. You can agree with it or not, right? Because science, here's the thing about science. It's ever evolving. It's ever changing. It's the pursuit of truth. And who's to know what is true? Because again, like I said earlier, I mean, I was told with my digestive problems my whole life that I should be eating fermented foods. But every time I eat fermented foods, I don't like them. I don't like pickles. I don't like kimchi. I don't like any of that shit. I don't like it. That was my body intuitively knowing like, hey, this is not good for us. It aggravates my mast cell activation syndrome and makes me have a histamine response, which in turn flares me up into pain and mental anguish and whatnot. Like I just found out one of the symptoms of anaphylaxis is thoughts of impending doom. I just, in these past 6 to 8 months, started walking regularly and started understanding my mast cell activation syndrome and eliminating flare-up foods from my diet. And one of those is peanuts. And I fucking love peanuts, but I can no longer eat them because they give me hives and they result in the thoughts of impending doom. So while I'm not going into a deadly anaphylactic shock, I ate a spoonful of peanut butter 6 months ago before my walk, just not thinking, thanks ADHD, running through life and not being cognitive or intentional with anything. And I ate a spoonful of peanut butter before my walk. And less than a mile into it, I had to turn around and go home because I had broken out in hives so bad. And my brain was telling me, you're going to get hit by a car, or you're going to break an ankle, or you're going to get abducted. And I had to turn around and go home. And because I've done all this research and I take such good care of myself, I was able to connect all the dots and go, damn, really got to make sure you don't have peanut.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I actually recently learned about the gut-brain axis too, which they don't tell people about, the fact that those two are actually connected. And the research is heavy in it.
What? Tell me more about it.
So the emitters, they say that they can't cross the blood-brain barrier, right? But there is cell signaling from the brain to the gut for that, for the production of neurotransmitters. Yeah, the two both kind of have a communication system.
So interesting.
Yeah.
OMG. Are you familiar at all with the goddess, the mother of all things holistic and letting the body heal itself? Barbara, the Australian woman, I forget her last name, Barbara O'Neill, and how much she talks about giving the body the right circumstances and environment to heal itself. And one thing she talks about all the time is the concept of having heartburn or too much acid in the stomach, right? And she goes, normally, if you're having heartburn pains and problems or like stomach burning, it's actually just that you're so dehydrated that your mucosal lining of your tummy isn't working properly. So the acid is not too much. It's just getting through into a place where it's not supposed to. And with things like heartburn, it's not that you have too much acid. It's that your little lever, your little valve that keeps everything down doesn't work properly. And then you combine that with Ehlers-Danlos and the pack. Yeah. So then you think Ehlers-Danlos, my connective tissue doesn't work properly. So my connective tissue for my digestive system doesn't keep everything moving down and it lets things back up.
Oh my goodness. That explains so much, especially while the mast cells are activated.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it all just connects.
It all just connects and makes sense. But, one of the things that I make all of my clients do is use my energy optimization guide to get 30 to 60 days worth of data about your energy and how it ebbs and flows, right? So essentially, every morning when you wake up, you write down and you say, okay, this is how many hours of sleep I got. This is how I feel. In the middle of the day, you say, all right, this is what I ate. This is how I feel. At the end of the day, you say, all right, this is how I feel. This is what I feel like I'm ready for tomorrow. I can recap my day. You got to do that for 60 days. And then we have enough data to look at and say, all right, this week I had a nap every single day at 2 p.m. What's different about this week? This week I was voraciously hungry, da. This week people were fucking pissing me off the whole time, right? But we have to have that data to be able to start making these connections, right? Data is king when it comes to this because again, now that we know this world was not set up for our success, this world was not set up for our health, right? When it comes to traditional MDs, they are here for the line of fine, right? They're here for when something does go wrong, let's fix it. But our approach, or my approach, is much more holistic and naturopathic and lifestyle approach of like, how can I take care of myself? What's going to make me feel my best? And that can change from day to day, hour to hour, because our energy levels can change so much.
That's amazing. I love that. I love the holistic. The world was not built for our function at all. We're all breaking down on a systemic level. So taking a holistic approach and fixing, everything as a whole I completely support that.
Yeah, it's so incredible. So, with your child being a nonverbal and you having all of this information that you're putting together and whatnot, what would you say to somebody else who's in a similar boat, either with themselves or with their child? What would be some of the best routes for them to start improving quality of life?
First step, I would say get them access to any form of communication. A language access deficit between the ages of 0 and 5 can cause lifelong cognitive impairments. So access to language while you figure out the cause. I have a free resource on my website that has the information on what could possibly be causing it, whether it's facial muscle oddities, whether it's selective mutism from the fight or flight hormones being too high, and figure that out with your child's doctor and hopefully bring their frustration levels down, because I know what that experience is like.
So frustrating. So frustrating. We actually have a student at the Neurospicy Academy who will attend a lot of our live sessions and only type in. They don't want to have their microphone on because they're not feeling particularly verbal in that moment. And to understand that that's okay, and that it's not necessarily that you worked yourself to the point of shutdown. It's not necessarily that you don't want to be around people, that it's simply your neurotype saying, I want to be here and I want to absorb all of it, but I don't want to talk, right? Because it used to be the approach a couple of years ago, at least in the world that I lived in and the mindset that I have was, we're going to get you to a point where you can talk all the time. It's like, maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's to be in an environment where not talking is okay.
Yeah, it's like pushing someone past the point of diabetes. Like, oh, you don't process sugar correctly, so let's just make sure that we start you in between meals because you don't deserve insulin. You don't deserve those accommodations. It's wrong because the child can't help what's happening with them internally. They deserve the proper accommodations for what's physically happening inside them.
Yeah. That's so, my oldest, he's 15 now. He didn't start walking until about 13, 14 months. But he was talking at like 8 months. He was like, cup, mama, all this stuff. And then my youngest was the opposite. He started running at 11 months and 1 week, and not just walk. He was, he'd do that thing where he would toddle, take 3 steps and fall, be like, fuck it, I'm going to crawl. And then all of a sudden one day on his birthday, we had to have his birthday party, his 1-year birthday party a month early because my husband was going on a deployment. And that day of his party, he decided, when I fall, I'm getting back up and I'm walking. I'm not doing this crawling shit anymore. And from that moment on, he runs. He was a climber. He was a jumper offer of things. He never saw a bench or a table that he wasn't going to climb and jump off of. But he was going for everything, for a motorcycle out the window, or he wanted more juice in his cup. And then it turned into, and I'd have to go, Brody, will you tell me what your brother's saying? I don't know what he's saying right now. And then all of a sudden one day it was words, right? So everybody has a process to learning and communication and being okay with it. Because I know, even with my very limited knowledge when he was that age, I wish I would have known more. But again, hindsight is 2020. I knew in my mind and my intuition that like, he's fine. This is not something that we have to change or battle or be concerned about. He's hitting all of his developments on time and whatnot. So like, let's just let the kid live. And now he's, in the gifted program and all that shit, neurodivergent as hell, as we all are in this home. There's nobody that is on the non-neurodivergent spectrum of some sort. So it's really like, what can happen moving forward in our community with the amount of knowledge that you are, equipping us with, and with the amount of compassion that we have and understanding that we have of like, hey, I'd rather hang around somebody who goes into verbal shutdown and just wants to type answers to me than hang around some sort of neurotypical asshole that wants to talk about the fucking weather all day.
That there needs to be more understanding of the different learning styles. I have a breakdown for parents too with nonverbal kids where your child could be learning a different way. They expect all kids to just hear words and learn them. Some need to see them. Some need flashcards so they can use their hands while they're learning. We all have different learning styles. It's very typical for neurotypical. And we need to start working with our children so that they don't experience the level of trauma that we all did being pushed into the system that doesn't work for us.
Yeah. Yeah. As a mom, I know that I have done an extensive amount of trauma healing on my own self. And my personal breakthrough that I felt really deeply that resonates with a lot of other people is that moment where instead of feeling the need to say, well, my parents, they tried their best, they really meant well, I no longer feel the need to say that. I can now just say, I experienced abuse of different forms and things that I shouldn't have gone through. And whether they were trying their best or not is irrelevant to my healing.
I had the same point with my mom. We don't really speak anymore. And I hit the point where I was like, you loved me at the capacity that you are capable of loving. And I let her hold the responsibility of that.
Yeah. When we realized too, like, what we're mourning is the loss of a relationship that we've created in our brain or a potential relationship. This is how it could be if they would do the work and they would own up to their shit and they would, come through this trauma healing shit. But once we understand we're only responsible for ourselves, we're only responsible for our own healing and for filling our own cup and taking care of ourselves to our best ability because nobody else is here to take care of us. Once we, hit a certain age, and your parents are no longer responsible for making you grow into a wonderful human, you're fucking responsible for yourself.
Yeah. I think everyone as a community is pretty much at this point where we're like, okay, this is where we're at. How do we move forward? We've all experienced trauma. We've all gone through all of this. How do we take this, use this, and help the next generation? Because there is no, it's so bad to say out loud, but there's no saving the previous.
There's none.
Unless they want that. They have to want that. We can't drag them with us. They have to want it. So we're just focusing on our kids and moving forward.
Yeah. And we know it's possible for that generation because I'm seeing it in some people. There are definitely some people, these older generations, that are really like, damn, I didn't realize that it was that bad when you experienced it because to me it was a Tuesday and to you it was a life-changing event.
Yes, exactly. That intrinsic motivation has to be there. And I love seeing it when they have that light bulb moment and they're there with us. I wish my mom had hit that point too, but I am so proud of the older generation who has been there with us. I'm seeing typical drama with the cookie in the cookie jar, having sit-down talks with their neurodivergent daughters and how they're going to help change things. And I love that for them and us.
Yeah, it's so good. So moving forward, what are your plans to be getting this information out to as many people as possible? Just keep plugging along on the social media and whatnot?
Yep, and I've made a book, so hopefully that gets more of a wider audience. I'm doing advertisements on Google Ads and Amazon and hopefully getting my story out there so more people dig into the research because it's a lot of content. So emotionally hook them so that they come with us on this journey. And yeah, I'm really excited about what the future holds. Oh, and I'm looking at putting my poster in a conference. I'm in talks with someone in the PhD world who's been amazing. He's helped me map out his own biochemical pathway, and he has that up now. I think he published that. I will release his name if he allows me to on social media, but I'm super excited.
That's so incredible. We need more people out here dedicating and devoting themselves to the pursuit of usable knowledge, right? Because we know, especially with ADHD, that it's not a lack of education. It's a challenge with application and execution. It's taking what we know and turning it into something that is actionable, that can actually start providing the transformation and the change that will improve everybody's quality of life.
Exactly. I'm actually in the research. It shows that it's a low dysregulated fight or flight response. And when you're in a fight or flight response, that executive function shuts down because you are in survival. So we can't just turn that on. We have to stop that fight or flight response first. And it's been figuring out how to do that and ways to work around it with other people. And the feedback from the community has been so much fun.
That's so good. That's so good. I'm so glad that our community Because our community of neurodivergence can be very segmented. And it can be shocking when you anger certain parts of the community. I've angered two different parts of the community before, and I'm not willing to ever partake in that ever again. So, really, going about it with the intention and the strategy is just as important as the desire and the know how.
Yeah, I definitely dipped my toes in pretty hard at first, not realizing what I was getting into. And I think it's been really wild watching perspective shift because I used to have people come at me so hard at first. Now they realize, oh, this chart can help me. I can get symptom relief from my comorbidities. I really try to emphasize there is nothing wrong with the way we think as neurodivergence. I love my bottom up thinking. I love the
Yeah.
fact that this hyperconnectivity happening in my brain, and I would never want to lose that. But the PCOS, everything that comes with it, I need some
Yeah.
symptoms.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Oh my God. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. And everybody who is listening, just know that all of this information we talked about will be in the show notes so that you can access all of them because your resources are so fantastic and so helpful. And again, symptom relief is what we want. We're not trying to change anybody's brain. We're not trying to change anybody's operating system. We're really just trying to maximize and improve so that we can all feel as good as is humanly possible.
Exactly. Yes.
Thank you so much for being on the show. And we will talk again real soon. And to everybody listening, I love you all equally and for different reasons. Take care of yourself, and we'll talk really soon.
Thank you so much. You have a good rest of your day.